Any questions from the floor?
So photographers who are just starting out and they're starting to build their prices and their business, where do you think they should be on price range? I know my terminology on that answer, but I wanted to hear it from you.
Okay. The question. The question from Bill, for experienced photographers, they pretty well know where they're going. This is just like reviewing the information. But where does a new photographer come in? Where do they start as far as pricing? Okay? And I understand that in your mind, there may be a blockage to say, well, I'm not as good as this other photographer, so I can't charge as much. But let me bring you down to the left side of your brain immediately, and you have to cover those expenses. You have to do this budget. See the first form that we saw, the 101? The one that's on page, I'll tell you. Instead of putting it on the screen and 31, page 31. Okay? If you start a business brand new, you got to do research. You got to do your research. Page 31. Okay, it's this page here. Okay? So, first, the easiest thing to figure out is your fixed expenses, because you don't know what your cost of sales are. You got no sales. So you would have a fixed expense column. What would I want to pay for a salary? Do I need an employee? Maybe at the beginning I shouldn't need to think of an employee right now because I don't have the business, I don't have an employee. So what would be the rent? What would be my insurance? What would be my car expenses? But then you see, well, you're going to have to wing it. You don't wing it like $50,000 in rent and whatever. You say, well, how much is that space going to take me? Or for those of you that don't have a studio, like downtown location, you want to work out of your home? Here's how you figure out your budget, what it's going to cost. Because it's going to cost you some money because you're using a portion of your home. I'm using 27% of my home for my business. So anything that relates to electricity, internet charges, heating, mortgage, and 27% of that goes to the business. And I deduct that. So that's how you would do that if you work out of your home or you work out of an apartment or something. Then taxes and office supplies and telephone. So you come up to the bottom line would say, I've got $67,000 of expenses, including my salary, because I want to pay myself $45,000. So it'd be 65. So obviously, you can't put $65,000 in sales because you'd be missing 20% for your cost of sales. So you'd have to go up from that. I do on my form, the people that have access to this form, I've redesigned it that would help you figure out exactly to the moment, to the minute, to the second, to the break-even point, how much your estimated sales will have to be, considering a 20% gross cost of sale and 80% gross profit. That would be in that form. And that it's not in here because it's an interactive, it's an Excel spreadsheet. But on that Excel spreadsheet here, that 101, there's 3 different forms that interact with each other. The categories of sale, and all of this are related to this one here, and it helps you figure out what do I need for categories of sales to be profitable. If I want to do projective sales, those of you that have been in business for a while, what have I done in 2013? What do I plan on doing in 2014? And move on. It's pretty interactive form. So to answer your question, get all your fixed expenses, and then you would estimate, if you have my form, you can estimate. Let's say I have $85,000 in sales. What's 20% of $85,000? So you're looking at $18,500 in cost of sales. You would put $18,500 here. That would be cost of sales. And then say, well, okay, I've got an 80% gross profit, $18,500 minus 85, and I've got 65 to cover. I've got a profit of $2,000. I'm profitable, and I got a salary. That's how I would go about it. And so, does that answer your question? Okay, now I'm going to go back to Kevin's, and I'll be back. Okay, you're so close. Kevin, hang on for a minute.
And then when you decide that you are ready to raise your prices, and with how many percentage you're going to raise your prices?
How do I do it? You're ahead of me. Are you part of your family?
I'm his assistant.
Oh, you guys think the same way. I'll be answering that question. I'll go back to Kevin now.
Oh, you were going to ask me one? You were talking about retouching.
Talking about retouching, you did have a question. No, because your thoughts generated me a question.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the thing about retouching, and I said, how many of you actually do your own retouching? And many hands got up. And I said to you guys, you're the most expensive retoucher in the world. Did I not say that? Okay. However, if you do charge, you have the true cost of your retouching and you put it into your cost of sales and you charge accordingly, I'm fine with that. However, it does take time, does it? How useful is that time that you behind a computer retouching? Could you not be in front of a client selling more work or knocking on doors, getting some more jobs into your business? Would that be more profitable? In my business, my job as a lab technician, that was me. That was not my spot to be in there, the lab technician. My job was to be in front of clients and behind a camera. That's where I make my most money. So I did not transform myself into a lab technician by retouching my own work. However, if I was to ask Louise Simone, send your stuff to retouch up, she would take my head off and throw it into the ocean. Because her signature is so distinctive that she has to do it. However, the price that she sells is all good. Now, for someone that says, I work 80 hours a week, 30 of those hours is retouching images, I would say, duh. Let's think about it now. You got no family life, you got no holidays or nothing. Let's see if we can not pick up some of this retouching time by farming out your work. Now, the beauty thing about farming out the work, and RetouchUp is one of those companies, there's other companies out there, is that you have a fixed price per file. $2.50, $4, $5, $10. Then you know when you make your pricing, you know exactly it's $10. The most I can buy for high-end retouching is $10. So $15 for print, $10 for retouching, $15 for mounting, and we're done. While if you're there behind your computer and you want $50,000 a year, and you spend an hour retouching that file, while an expert could spend 10 minutes and charge you $10, your cost of sale for that retouching job is $30. You see why I'm saying you're the most expensive retoucher in the world? That's the equation that you need to say. Now, if you have a specific signature, you can get 75% of the job done outside and tweak it. And then reduce again. You have to add that cost again as well. Do you get my drift? This is so important. This is where we lose all the profitability in our studio since digital has come around. We lost it there. We lost total control of that. Therefore, we lost control of our time. It's deadly. We have to take hold of that control. We have to take it back to us. And don't be afraid to farm out the stuff. What did we do when we had roll film? You just take the film out of the camera, lick it, send it to the lab, right? So what do you do with a digital file now?
Color I do. Black and white I process myself, but color I do.
Kevin, you and I were buddies. I tell you what, I printed one color print in my whole life. I printed thousands and thousands of black and white, but one color, because I said to myself, I don't want to die without printing one color 8x10. So I went to my technician in my lab, and I put it in the easel, framed it. I said, fix the colors. He fixed the colors. I pressed the button, put it in the machine. I can die. I can die. I did one color print in my whole life, and that's it. You see, the thing is some people say 80% on rate. That's gross. That's gross. It's impossible. We can't do that. Whenever you buy clothes, you're being charged 80, 90, 85, 90% gross profit on that. Easy enough. Easy. I was flying to Vancouver one day to do a program out west, and it's a 6-hour flight. So you do have some natural needs. So I'm sitting next to the washroom waiting to get in there, and there's a gentleman that has a spreadsheet on his computer, and I'm not curious. I'm not curious. I'm not looking at this full spreadsheet that outlines the whole process line of clothing. He's flying to China. It's all there. From the manufacturer, like ladies' clothing, blouse, white, medium size, all the way down here, all the way, container, cost, retail, suggested retail. Now for $2.30 blouse, I switch right to the end, suggested retail. What was the suggested retail price? Take a guess. $125. For $2 in China. And then you would add design, and then there would be a $10,000 at the bottom of the screen says container. But how many of these little puppies can you put in a container? You can squeeze them like crazy and put a lot of them. So maybe 5 cents or 10 cents a blouse would be for that. But it was all laid out there. Oh. And then people are saying, well, 80% in photography is too much. It is not too much. It's like the base. We saw it by numbers. It's the base. If you want to go 85, that's fine. 90, it's fine. We'll go into pricing in a few minutes. Does that answer the question? Yes? I sort of deviated from it. But I do that.